Oh, what up, friends? I know I said on my last one that Crossblades was like awesome, but then I started playing this and people were talking about this and I had to try it. And this build has been absolutely phenomenal. You can see playing before you, I am clearing Sanctum. I am blowing through Sanctum, no problem. Easy as pie. Everything is going swimmingly. And overall, the build is just really cool. I ended up searching around on Twitch to see what kind of builds people were playing, and I stopped at my Cute Dog stream. I saw he was playing this. I asked him about it. He said he saw DS Lily playing it. I diverted to a DS Lily video who said she saw it from Uberdan. And then there's like 45,672 different people who have been playing it. But overall, I originally got the idea by just searching around Twitch and looking for something cool to play and try. So I saw a Cute Dog playing it, and that led me down a rabbit hole of checking out a bunch of different content creators that were playing it. I will actually be posting links to their YouTubes and videos down below. So if you want to go see all the different variants between Uberdan, Lily, Cute Dog, and stuff like that, feel free to check out any of the links down below. Now, this isn't my idea. This isn't my own creation. This is none of that. I saw it, I copied it, I put it together, I learned it, and I played it. And like you see before you, it is just absolutely destroying Sanctum. It blows it up, it flies through everything, it can do Uber bosses pretty well, and it feels absolutely phenomenal to play. Like, absolutely wonderful to play. I highly recommend, if you get the opportunity to try it this league, to give it a go and pretty much give it a whirl. Now, let's leave this Sanctum run for later. We'll watch the rest of that later, and we'll cut on over to our character, and we'll talk about what's going on. Now, before you is my character, and essentially what happens is, and how this character works is, we are taking advantage of the Ralakesh boots. These boots say that when you move, you lose all of your charges. So as soon as you take a step or do anything, all of your charges are gone. But as soon as you're stationary, your character gains your minimum charges equal to your maximum charges. So what that means is that if I stand still, my character gains all of its charges. And then if I were to move, the character would lose all of its charges. But you'll notice something really cool. The boots are currently unequipped. That's where the really interesting part. I don't know if this is a bug and I don't know what this is. I assume this is not intended, and I assume this is going to get patched, which is why I wanted to try it. So if you're watching this video in the future and this doesn't work, this is probably a one-time league thing. So if you're watching this now and Toad is still happening, I would say try it out immediately. What happens is with the boots, if I were to weapon swap for one server tick, the game registers the boots as equipped and gives you all of the charges. Now, since the boots are not equipped, you don't lose the charges when you move like you normally would. So if I weapon swap, I gain the charges. So essentially what it means is I can discharge, weapon swap, discharge, weapon swap. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh my God, I don't want a weapon swap. That's a huge pain in the butt. And I agree, weapon swap on the X key is a huge pain in the butt. But if you weapon swap on your mouse, like I do, I currently have weapon swap on my left mouse button right here. So I can weapon swap, discharge, weapon swap, discharge, weapon swap, discharge. And it's a really comfortable, awesome play style. It does so much damage that essentially, if I were to click discharge and have charges up, the damage is so high on the tooltip that the number goes into a negative. Because you also have a bajillion power charges, you have 100% crit chance. So you just crit, you deal a bajillions of damage, and everything blows up. Now, I don't know about budget variants of this build. I don't know anything about that. I only know the variant that I saw and the variant that I copied, so it might be a little bit expensive. So if it's a little expensive, I'm sure the Uberdan version or the Lily version will be a little bit cheaper. You can explore other options in the links down below. But I can only talk about the version that I've played and the only the ones that I've looked into. Essentially, this is the build and this is how it works. We have Discharge in our 6th link, and essentially Discharge says, deal a bajillions of damage per power, endurance, and frenzy charge, and consume all the charges. 40% increased damage if 3 different charges are consumed. So we take Discharge, we scale it to the moon, we get 14 times 3 charges. I think it's like 42, 4, 8, 12, 3, carry the 1, 42 charges, and we just blow up everything. So you discharge and you discharge. We're going to be pairing our discharge with Empower support to level our discharge up. We're using Phantasmal Discharge for the 40% increased damage. We use elemental focus so that we just deal a ton of damage. We're not worrying about freezing, chilling, igniting, burning, any of that because we're original sin. We're going to be using second wind, which we'll touch on in a second. We have increased critical damage, so we scale our crit multi to the moon since we're 100% crit chance, and we have divergent power charge on crit, which gives us increased damage per power charge. Now, if I take out anomalous second wind, you'll notice down here right away that discharge has one use and then it comes back up and then I can discharge again. For Sanctum, this is fine. Overall, it's not too bad. You could put void manipulation in this spot to gain more damage if you want, like awaken void manip, but a buddy of mine suggested second wind. And essentially what second wind does is it gives us a bunch of charges. So I have 3 discharge charges thanks to anomalous second wind, which gives us an additional use, and I can discharge, weapon swap, and discharge. If you want to map with this character, that makes mapping real smooth and real simple, as by the time you expend 3 discharges, you have a 4th one up, and it's real easy to just go pack to pack to pack to pack and then have another use up. So you can actually stretch it out to 5 charges before you're like, oh my god, where's the DPS? But depending on how you're mapping and what you're doing, I would only do this character for Sanctum and bossing. I wouldn't really be trying to do 100% deli maps. I mean, it does a bajillions of damage. You could probably go do a deli map. I haven't personally tried a deli map or blown up a deli map. I mean, I don't know if I would even really consider doing it. You might get your teeth kicked in. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It has a kind of zero defense kind of defense as your endurance charges. So while I think it's pretty cool, I don't know if I would ever just go like grab a map and then val it and then get a whole bunch of stuff and then open it up and hope to God it works. There's a chance that going into a map and trying to do it that you might just blow the hell up. Like I said, this is a really solid Sanctum build. I mean, you can obviously like see you just deal a bajillions of damage and it might work, but I don't recommend trying to map with this. I'm showing you this in front of you now so that you can see going into a map and trying to do a map. It's a little sketch, a little bit of a weird phase. And I mean, like, it can do it, right? Like, you know, you go a little bit slower, you plan out where you're going, what you're doing. You don't run around like a chicken with your head cut off, you know? You don't get like completely frozen. You'd be all right. You know what I'm saying? You'd be all right. You'll be all right. I'm really curious what's in that valve vessel now. I have to know. Map mods, I assume, will make this build a literal nightmare. Don't do it. Just don't map with it. I had to show you how it works in maps so that somebody who says, well, I mapped with it, it was bad, I warned you. Okay, so discharge. We've seen how it works. We see it's insane in Sanctum. Let's talk about the rest of the gear and what's going on. We know our 6th link is Phantasmal Discharge, and we're going to stick that in a replica Restless Ward. We do this because this armor gives us movement speed per frenzy charge and regen life per endurance charge. So we're really slow, and then we get charges, and we're really fast. You'll notice on my armor, it has +2 socketed AoE gems on it. If I were to price this out in front of you right now, this is a pretty expensive corrupt. It's about 45 divines. About 45 divines. Some are 70. I would not buy this armor corrupted. Phantasmal Discharge has spell, AoE, fire, cold, and lightning tags on it. Buy Restless Wards, val them yourself. That's what I did. I valved like 15 of them. I hit +2 socketed AoE gems. You just have so many options that you can hit, or double corrupt them. You have so many options that you can hit that will make this armor completely usable. Even if you don't get the +2, it's still more than usable. Now, I had mentioned that we are using this to stack and we're getting all of our frenzy charges and power charges, and that's because we're pairing everything with Badge of the Brotherhood. Badge of the Brotherhood says that our frenzy charges are equal to our maximum power charges. So every time that I swap, my power charges are equal to our frenzy charges. You need Badge of the Brotherhood. It's non-negotiable. You need to get it. We anoint it with more power charges, but it's a really good amulet. You can find weird corrupts that you want, but you really don't need it. You just need Badge of the Brotherhood. The boots, we spoke about the boots. You know what the boots do and why we have the boots. Inside of the boots, I just have a high dex item or a skill gem to make sure that the boots are, you know, redded out. We don't want the boots to accidentally equip, so we stick a high gem or a high dex requirement gem in the boots, or just so that they never equip. We're going to also use surge binders. I have a pair with socketed AoE gems on them, and that's so that I could scale my righteous fire a little bit. We're going to be pairing righteous fire with enhance, summon flame golem, and anomalous withering step. You really don't use RF. The only time you're ever going to use RF is to kill Lycia or big Uber bosses, so don't really stress on that. You also don't need the corrupt. The thing that you're looking for the most on the gloves is the 6% to elemental damage per power charge, or yeah, per charge. You want to get that to 7. So you want 7% increased elemental damage and 7% increased spell damage. My old gloves were a 5% pair with cast speed, but you just kind of, if you don't care about the corrupt, just get a nice rolled pair and just kind of roll with it. Our weapon, we're going to be using Void Battery. We have +1 power charges on Void Battery. Inside the Void Battery, we have an Arrogance, a Herald of Ash, and a Flame Dash. Okay, I was looking at that for a second. I was confused. I was like, I thought we were using alt quality Herald of Ash. We're not. Our shield, we're going to be using Malachi's Loop. This gives us +2 maximum power charges, which is really nice. Inside the shield, we have an Immortal Call, cast when damage taken set, and Herald of Thunder. Something really important that I'd like to mention with the weapon and the weapon swap that you have to know, and this is very important. The skill gems in your weapon must match your weapon swap. So if you have a 21 Herald of Ash, you need a 21 in the offhand. If you have a Flame Dash, you need a Flame Dash in the offhand. They also have to be in the exact same spots or this will not work. Essentially, when I have Herald of Ash here and I weapon swap, you'll know right away, and you'll notice that my Herald of Ash stays equipped. This is because the gem and skill is in the same exact spot in the same exact weapon when you weapon swap and nothing turns off. If you want to put your Flame Golem in your weapon, you could do that. As long as everything matches up and lines up when you weapon swap, nothing will change. So keep that in mind, very important. As far as your Void Battery goes, you get a nice cast speed rolled one. You don't really worry about the crit chance because you have so many charges. That's fine. Same thing with your shield. If you want to find a nice 16% increased spell damage per power charge, that's really all you care about. Everything else is just extra. You can also find corrupts on the Void Battery and corrupts on the shield for more damage and more min-maxing. I didn't go out of my way to do all that. Now, the rings are really important. We use Original Sin because we deal a bunch of different damage. We want to convert it all to chaos and we want to blow everything up. And that's what Original Sin does. Unfortunately, Original Sin is a little bit of an expensive item. This item at the current time is about 145 divines. Everything else so far that we've talked about, the Badge of the Brotherhood is roughly a divine. These gloves without the corrupt are like a divine. The shield, the 100C. Void Battery is like 80C. These boots are like, like 150C. You don't need the damage penetrates on the boots because the boots are not on. I have it because I was labbing and I saw it and I put it on the boots. You don't need it. Keep that in mind. You don't need it. Now, it does use Mage Blood. I don't know if there's an alternative. You'd have to look around. I'm sure you can get a nice Stygian Vice. That'll be a good alternative with, you know, flash charges that you use when they're on. I just happen to have a Mage Blood. I'm going to use my Mage Blood, but I'm sure Stygian Vice would do just as well. As a Mage Blood is just turning our flask on, but you only need a flask for Sanctum and you already do a bajillions of damage, so I'm sure a Stygian Vice would be more than acceptable. The thing that is not negotiable, though, are the boots and the Original Sin. Like, you need it, and you need the Badge of the Brotherhood. So, like, you can't really skip a lot of corners. There is a version that doesn't use the Original Sin. I know it freezes everything and does stuff like that. I don't know how strong it is. I have friends that have played it. They loved it. I have not personally tried it, so I can't comment on it, but there are versions that use Heat Shiver and a non-Original Sin. Now, the helmet is very interesting. I have my old helmet here. My old helmet was Power Charge, Life, Socketed AoE Gems, Global Crit Multi, Ashlinged, and Aspect of the Spider. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel. There will be a link for it down below that you can look at to see how to craft this helmet. The helmet's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it's not terrible to make. And just today, right before I recorded this video, I started putting extra helmets together and I just started randomly valuing them, hoping to hit a +2 power charge helmet. And right before I started recording this video, I hit a +2 helmet. The +2 is nice. It gives a lot of extra damage. You really don't need it, like, at all. It's just cool. It's just more and more damage to make number go burr, but you don't need it. You can get away very nicely with a helmet like this. And even this helmet, you don't even need on a Hubris Circlet. Like, if you're going to craft this helmet, I would just craft it on a Blizzard Crown because you're playing your Original Sin and you want Blizzard Crowns to, like, have the extra points of damage. Our helmet has anomalous assassin's mark so that enemies take more damage. We have it in our Arcanus brand, so the Arcanus brand will put it on the enemy. I only ever use this on Lycia. I never use it anywhere else, ever, period, ever. I only put it on Lycia or when I'm doing Uber bosses. We have Petrified Blood and Divergent Discipline. Now let's talk about the power charges. I had mentioned earlier that we have power charges are equal to our frenzy charges. That's how we have 14. And then because we are Slayer, Slayer says your maximum endurance charges are equal to your maximum frenzy charges. So if we stack power charges, we get frenzy charges. And because we have frenzy charges, we get endurance charges. And that's how this works. The game and our character naturally starts with 3. We get 4 from this, 5, 6 here, 7 on this ring. That gives us a power charge ring. So you can use any ring with power charges. If you don't get a ring with power charge, you can get a ring with increased spell damage per power charge, or you can just put whatever ring you want in this spot. I know I forgot to mention the ring. The ring is like whatever. The ring is expensive. You have to get a power charge ring. If you want more damage, you don't need the ring. The ring is extra. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 power charges there. We get 10 from a tattoo over here. We get 11 from this over there. We get 12 from the anoint. And then we get 13 up here. And then 14 comes from a Watcher's Eye. We use Sublime Vision in this setup so that our discipline gives us an additional power charge. Otherwise, the rest of the build is pretty straightforward. We take Slayer, like I mentioned, for masterful form so that our endurance charges are equal to our frenzy charges, and our frenzy charges are equal to our power charges from our amulet. We get a bunch of critical strike chance for the attacks, which doesn't do anything, but we get a bunch of crit multi and minus crit multi, which is really good. And then we get Culling Strike, which is pretty nice, man. I don't know. Slayer's pretty sweet. We take Unwavering Stance so we don't get crit. We have a bunch of jewel sockets. I have an empty jewel socket. I leveled right before I made this video and didn't get a chance to put a jewel socket in. We're going to use a couple of clusters with Unholy Grace, Unwavering Evil, and Wicked Paw. This is just going to give us a bunch of chaos damage. We're going to get a Militant Faith. You want to make sure that your Militant Faith doesn't alter any of these. So you want to make sure that it still gives you power charge. The seed doesn't matter. As long as you check the seed and it doesn't change or override the power charge, you are golden and good to go. The big thing, though, with the Militant Faith is you need it of Dominus so that you get more spell damage per power charge. So every power charge that you get, you're going to get 3% more damage. Having the Militant Faith is really important. Other things to note with the Militant Faith, we take increased elemental damage per devotion and increased non-damaging elements of enemies, which, whatever, we just want it for the inner conviction, which is like nuts. And then the rest of the tree is pretty straightforward. We have 3 of the exact same large cluster. We talked about the Sublime Vision. This Sublime Vision, at the time of recording, right here, right now, let's just take a bad rolled one. These are going up. So if you're seeing this or thinking about this, or your friends are talking to you about this, get this sooner rather than later, because it looks like this is going up. I picked up mine for like 2 divs. They were like unused, unplayed. You'll notice here we have a Warrior's Tail with increased RMR. If you're going to do this version, you're going to need more RMR so you can fit things in. If you can't get the Warrior's Tail or it's out of budget, just tattoo on mana reservation somewhere so that you have problems. We want to use the Warrior's Tail so that we get CDR or cooldown recovery rate here and here. This is what allows us to have our charges come back up just in time so that we have exactly 4 uses from swapping with the weapon swap. So the CDR is pretty important. You could try tattooing off or not having the CDR and see how it feels if you want, but you're going to need the RMR to fit in all the auras anyways. Now, one thing that I want to talk about is I have this empty jewel socket, and these jewels are very easy to make. We have triple crit multi-jewels. The best way to do this is to buy a crit multi-jewel that is already fractured with any of them. I did elemental skills, so they all have elemental skill, or not that one. This one does too, has elemental skill fracture, and then I just use harvest reforge crit until you hit any triple crit multi or double crit multi. Because Phantasmal Discharge has fire, cold, and lightning on it, you can essentially use any variant of crit multi, period, ever, period. So like this one is spell damage and fire skills. This one is global crit multi and cold skills. This one is spell damage, lightning damage. This one is just global crit multi-elemental skills. Something to note that's very important, I have this fractured jewel here that gives me increased reservation of skills. You do need this if you want to fit in all the auras. Same thing with the Warrior's Tail. Otherwise, you're going to be tattooing on a whole lot of RMR jewels, and nobody really wants to do that. And the same thing here, elemental damage, spell damage, lightning damage. Iron Will, so that our strength gives us spell damage, and overall it's, you know, a pretty straightforward build. The thing that took me a little bit of time to get used to was the weapon swapping and pressing the weapon swap, just making sure there's nothing else very special on these jewels that I didn't miss, and otherwise you're pretty much good to go. The POB, like I said, the damage, I would show you the calculations, but it doesn't even matter because the damage is so high that it's not really calculated and the numbers go negative. Your defenses, you have capped resistance, but you have so little life, it doesn't matter anyways. You're going to die to everything if you don't have endurance charges up, and pretty much you're just going to go into Sanctum and not have a care in the world and blow up everything. Nodders. Have fun. Friends, if you like it and you enjoyed this and you're going to give it a shot, let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'm going to put the rest of that Sanctum run at the end of this video now. I didn't want to take up too much time talking about the build. But if you have questions or you get stuck or you don't know what's going on, leave a comment down below, come by the Discord, stop by the Twitch stream, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And for now, friends, I'll see you guys in the next one.
You stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back. Slay them. You stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back. Feed the beast all that it desires.
They can't do this just yet.
Bow to my sycophants! You seek to challenge death by staring it in the face? How pathetic!
Another human tempted by power. A mortal after my own heart.
They can't do this just yet.
You stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back.
You have invoked the wrath of a powerful entity. Perish! You have challenged my legion, but you will succumb.
I can't do this just yet.
You stare into the abyss, and the abyss stares back. I do so enjoy torturing you.
Rise, my servant.
Playing with fire will get you burned.
Yes, let us spar once more. You cannot escape Bedat's gaze. Bedat, take my flesh.
can't do this just yet.